You are now listening to the voice of horror. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, guys? It's Sunday, and we're here to do a ranking.
Blah,
Yeah,
blah.
Wow, that was, I don't know, man.
that's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Was it though?
No,
I kind of want to hear it again.
Say no. Yeah, do it again, man.
blah, blah.
Okay. All right. That's the last time we're
Nice.
going to do that. I'm just playing. So
Shit.
yeah, so today we're going to be talking about vampire movies and also giving you guys a ranking of what is our top 5 vampire movies forever. And this is going to be an interesting conversation, an interesting list to say the least, that we did not know between the three of us. We always make these lists separate from each other. So when it finally comes to the point of talking about them, it usually is very, very interesting as far as what we pick. But real quick in the chat, just to say hello to you guys that are here on Sunday evening. Val, thank you so much for putting in the
Hey,
rules.
nice. Yeah.
Good to see you. She's saying happy Sunday. Yes, happy Sunday to you too. Yeah. Nathan's in the chat. What's going on, Nathan? I hope you're doing well. We got Gina's in the chat. What's going on?
Hello.
Good to see you. We got Jen. Jen's in the chat. What's going on, Jen?
Hey.
And Polar's in the chat saying, hey, everyone. What's going on, Polar? Good to see you too. Yeah. All right. Very, very cool. All right, guys. So before we get into our list and what we're going to do, basically, we'll have Kill, you'll go first, and then Coriander, and then me, as we usually do around Robin style. But Kill, let me start with you. What do you think about when you think of vampires? Like, what do vampire movies mean to you, just in general? We don't have to necessarily start our list, but just in general.
Well, vampire movies are like that one kind of classic universal movie monster where they do so much with them.
Right.
There's comedy ones, like with Liam Neeson, Dead and Loving It. You got gruesome ones like 30 Days of Night, and then you got some suave, pimped out, weird ones or whatever. And then of course you have sparkling vampires. So
Yeah. Oh man.
What the hell is sparkling? What is that from?
Twilight series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they
Man,
shimmered.
I'm not gonna lie, man. Do you know that in preparing for this whole thing, I did not think of Twilight 1 second.
I have not even seen any of those movies. How many is there?
Oh,
like
5. I've seen 2 of them because I was forced to see like the first 2. I believe it was like 5.
Yeah.
I believe it was like 5. I could be wrong, but hey, the book.
And how many have you seen, Night?
1.
Are you sure?
I'm positive, man, because after seeing that, I was just like, nope, we're not doing that.
Nope. I'm noping out.
We're not doing that again. It's true.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Anyways, but what about you, Coriander? What do vampire movies, mean to you? You've obviously been a horror fan for a long time. What's your connection to vampire movies?
For me, like, if I want to, for me, vampires and romance are like, they kind of go hand in hand. And a couple of my favorite ones, one unfortunately isn't on this list because it just isn't. Because there is a few that, you have to pick and choose. But I just love how, they bring gore, romance, and the love and the horror, you got vampires, drinking children.
Mhm.
It's a fun genre, and it's too bad that, I don't know. I don't really see too many people talk vampire film, movies. So yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think that it is you kinda started to talk about what I was thinking is that, we haven't had, like, a really, like, top tier, vampire movie in a little while, and I know there are some out there, there are always vampire movies being made. I mean, there's vampire
Mm.
movies that are streaming nowadays and stuff like that. But it does seem like, we've kind of lost touch with it a little bit. And I'd love to see one of these days for, one to come out and it's like, wow, this is like, in other words, it could be a movie that would be on one of our lists today.
Well,
Was
well,
it?
well, you know what? I agree with you. They're not on
Hmm.
movies, but now they're on streaming
Yeah. Well,
because
exactly. Yes.
I've recently watched the Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire
Hmm.
series, and it is excellent.
Really?
Absolutely excellent. Yes.
Hmm.
Wow.
And
You
and
haven't
the
told me
other
that.
recommendation I have is on Netflix. There's a 3-part Dracula. It's
Yes.
it's 3 parts, and
And
essentially it's the better parts of Bram Stoker's Dracula, just
right.
Ooh.
told in a different way
Didn't
with
that
a very, very good
Didn't
actor.
that didn't that come out like 2 years ago, something like that?
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
know what you're talking about. Yep.
It's
I haven't had a
three
chance
three
to
episodes.
watch it yet, but it's on my list. Yeah.
Mhm.
Real quick too in the chat, Gina's got a couple that she's hoping that we get a chance to mention. We'll see. We'll see. Caden's in the chat saying, "What's up, Night and Panel? What's going on? What's
Hey.
going on?" Gina's saying, "Hope you had a great birthday, Coriander, and got birthday cake." I can't believe that
I
became a thing.
did. Yeah,
Uh,
I did, and it
Haroon's
was
in the
great.
chat.
Thank you.
Nice.
Haroon's in the chat. What's going on? Jen saying I really like the vampire TV shows more. Okay. All right. And Val reminding people to please hit the like button. Thank you so much. Justin's in the chat. What's going on? All right. Saying you can't talk about top vampire movies without talking about classics like Blackula, Scream, the sequel 70s classics. There are a lot of great classics from back in the day. No doubt about that. David's in the chat. What's going on, David? Now, real quick, too, to kind of piggyback on what you said, Kill, and I do want to throw this out here because it's kind of an honorable mention, but it doesn't count because, like you said, there's some great stuff that's streaming, and Coriander can validate this, but one streaming show that I love, or show on TV, a vampire show that I love, is The Strain. That
Yeah.
is a badass vampire show, right, Kill? Our boy
I read the books,
Satrakian.
and
Yeah,
yes,
just like that. What was it? The one with the church?
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass. Yes.
Yes, that was
Yes.
another good one too.
Good point. Very good point. Mike Flanagan.
Yes.
Wow.
And,
Yes.
I gotta send some love. True Blood,
I
shouts
was gonna
out.
say that. Damn
There
it!
you go.
Damn it!
True Blood had vampires and werewolves, or
They had a
changelings,
whole bunch of shit.
fairies,
Right.
you name it.
Shapeshifters.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. All right. So look, guys, this is how we're gonna do this thing. We're gonna go basically through our list. Kill. We're gonna start with you. We're gonna start with your fifth pick in your number 5 spot. What are you going with?
Okay, so once again, let me just reiterate: these are our favorites. My first one,
Right.
somebody might say that you're choosing that, and I'm like, yes, I am, and I'll explain it.
Okay.
First of all, I love comic books, and a lot of people either didn't know that this was a comic book or they forgot. Well, I'm gonna remind you because it came out before all this Marvel madness. My number 5 is Blade 2.
I knew it. I knew it
You
would
already
be
did.
And
one of
look,
them.
look at that poster. I owned
Yeah.
that poster. And
Right.
for guys in the chats that might be like, really? What? Let me just explain it here. Okay. For one, you got Ron Perlman, Donnie
Yeah, you
Yen,
do.
Wesley
Yeah.
Snipes. I mean, it's so many people in this movie. Guillermo del Toro directing it. Come on, man.
Yes.
Come
But and,
on.
and speaking of which, and just real quick too, man, Guillermo was obviously with the strain as well. 'Cause Guillermo, he
Guillermo
knows how to
helped
do
co-write
vampire
the
shit.
strain. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, he did.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a comic book. It is a Marvel character, which a lot of people they didn't when these movies came out, they didn't put that front and center. You know, a lot of people I
Yes.
knew didn't even know it was a comic book. But Wesley
Yes.
Snipes, he had something here. This movie was full of great action. It was funny. It was cool.
Yes.
I mean, it was sophisticated, and I mean, he's just a bad ass. And I
Mm-hmm.
chose Blade 2 because it had all the cool of Blade 1 and just amped it up even more to the point
Mm-hmm.
where the vampires needed to work with him. If you don't know,
Yes.
he's a day walker. He's half vampire, half human, and he hunts vampires. Well, in this one,
Yes.
there was a bigger threat that the vampire said, "Hey, we need your help, buddy."
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right. Right. Right.
and it's just a really cool action movie and a really, really cool vampire movie. So
Yeah.
this was a no-brainer for me for my list.
Absolutely, man. And I knew
Nice.
before I even got your list, I knew that you were gonna say Blade 2. I knew it. I knew it.
Hey,
But
it has to
all
happen.
good, man. Man, I'll never forget too when we first saw that, I was just kind of like, man, this is really, really amazing as far as and again, Guillermo is always great with atmosphere and his aesthetic. Everything just was so like cool looking. And I think Wesley Snipes, he really hit the jackpot with this character. No doubt about
Yes.
it, man. Good movie.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, Coriander, what do we have for your number 5?
So this one I chose is a comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and it is also a really good show. You know, it's like it's funny, and I almost like it better than the movie, but I love the movie too. But it's
Mm-hmm.
What We Do in the Shadows.
All
And
right.
yeah, you have these like three vampires that, they're living in the modern day. They're like 100 years old and they dress like in the like Victorian style,
Right.
and it's just watching these, old school vampires trying to live in modern day, and it's just funny, and yeah, I enjoy that movie quite a bit. So, yeah.
All right.
Coriander, can I
Very.
ask you a question?
Yeah.
I've been meaning to watch this or the
Yeah.
movie.
hmm
I have to admit I have watched neither. Where should I
Mm-hmm.
start? Should I start with the movie or the show?
I watched the show before I had even seen the movie. Like, I didn't know it was a movie.
Mm,
So, yeah. And I just saw the movie, God, probably like a little over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do either. I started with a show and I loved it. I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's kind of where the movie is like in second place, just because I loved the characters and they're just so funny.
In the
So, and
show,
these
yeah.
guys, yeah, and in the movie they are too. But yeah, it's. I would start with the show, honestly.
okay. Okay.
The
Cool.
show is
Yeah,
hilarious, man.
it
It
is.
really is. Polar in the chat had said that before you even told them your pick, Coriander. She said, "What We
Oh,
Do in the
nice.
Shadows" movie is hilarious.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
It is
yeah.
a real good movie. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. We might have to, and again, we're doing our watch party tonight with members tonight. So Polar, we might have to at some point maybe we could do some what we do in the shadows, as a watch party. That could be kind of fun to do as well.
Yeah.
Keep remind me of that, Polar, if you can think of it. James saying which decade had the better vampire movies, the 80s or the 90s?
Mm,
Oh,
see,
that's
that's
tough.
hard.
Well,
A couple of my favorites came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is kind
it's
of tough.
tough.
It is kind of tough. Yeah. All right. Okay. Jamie's in the chat too. What's going on, Jamie? Good to see
Hey.
you. All right. James is saying Blade is at number 5. Jamie's saying her number 5 is John Carpenter's Vampires. There you go, giving John Carpenter some love. We
That is a
always
good
love
one.
that. The
Is
rest
that
of you
the
guys,
one with
James Woods.
James Woods.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, go
And
ahead.
And for the rest of you guys, let us know what your favorites are or what your top 5 is. And then we can hopefully chat about that too. Real quick before I give mine, the mayor has come into the chat. Our good friend Eric from the Bearded Entertainment,
Hey.
one of our
Nice.
big channel member supporters and of the community as well, saying I'm late coming in, but if Dracula Dead and Loving It isn't on the list, then I respectfully disagree.
Well, it's already been
Hmm.
mentioned.
We did mention it though. We did mention it. Hey, look, anytime we can talk about or watch something with Leslie Nielsen in it, we're all for it, man. But you're right, Dracula Dead and Loving It is fantastic. Good one, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much also for the super chat, Eric. We really appreciate it, man. Seriously. No doubt about it. Okay, so look, I was saying this backstage before we got here, and I don't want to rant, but this was kind of difficult, man, to put this list together because you only get 5 picks. We originally were thinking of doing the top 10, but we just narrowed it down to 5. So I want to talk about kind of my honorable mention, and this is how I look at things, man. Look, this guy right here is
Yeah.
Dracula. Okay, let me
Hmm.
have a Christopher Lee moment. Okay, I have actually cheated. My number 5 is a tie. I have 2 movies, and I had to
Dude,
have. Listen, hey,
what?
look,
That's
that's what.
bullshit.
Hey, well, you can consider it maybe an honorable mention, but I had to talk about Christopher Lee for a moment with Horror of Dracula. The the dynamic between Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing is just fantastic. It's just magnificent. And I remember as a kid watching Christopher Lee movies and being scared as shit as a little kid.
Mhm.
I mean, like, even right now, I can remember just bits and pieces of certain scenes that just would creep me out. And just the imagery of Christopher Lee.
Mhm.
It's just fantastic. And that's not to forget, the beginnings of things and stuff like Bela Lugosi, which, by the way, Bela Lugosi's Dracula is still a fantastic movie. We're talking about a movie that's friggin' almost 100 years old, and he
Yeah.
still has fantastic scenes and charisma and commandment and stuff like that as Dracula. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to Christopher Lee and just kind of say, hey, you're still the man. You are still the man. But my true number 5, I had to put this on there. And we love talking about this particular actor all the time, anytime we can get. My number 5 is Near Dark. And look, Bill Paxton. That's all I gotta say, man. Bill Paxton. This is a movie, and it's funny too. I remember when I had first seen it, it just has a lot of great stuff in it. Just imagery.
Really?
It you haven't seen it?
I haven't. And I think the
Wow.
cover always just threw me off for some reason.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
man. I've
wow.
never, yeah, I've
You
never
got
seen it.
you got to check it out, man.
Yeah,
For real. For real. It's just one of
yeah.
those movies that's always stuck with me, man. And I,
Mm.
I won't I won't say anything to ruin it, but we might have to check it out and then kind of have a conversation about it. Seriously, it's a good one. It's a good one. Have you seen it, Kill?
No, I'm intrigued though.
Oh, okay. All right. Very, very cool. Well, that is what I've got for my number 5, man. Real quick too, in the chat, Val was saying the strain was awesome. Yes.
Yes.
No doubt
Mhm.
about it, man.
Very faithful
It's
to the books.
yeah, I mean it's very, very good, man. No
Yeah,
doubt about it.
real quick, what I liked about it, and I don't want to sound morbid, we
Hmm.
lost.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
lost. Humanity
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
And
well,
I mean, for
I
the
haven't
most part.
seen it all the way,
yeah, we're
so
watching it, so
Oh,
but
sorry.
but that's not but that's not the
shit.
whole thing though.
No.
No, that's not the
But
whole
that's
thing.
not the whole thing, Coriander.
Each book
Okay.
it was
Obviously,
kind of
the
a
apocalypse was
portion.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Gina was saying, I hope Near Dark and 30 Days a Night get a mention. There you go. There you go. saying I was 3 when I started watching Christopher Lee. Yes, yes.
Nice.
But Bobby Lee also saying watching Christopher Lee's Dracula as a kid was everything. It really was, man. For
Nice.
people, and obviously we come from, a different generation, but for people who
Yeah.
maybe has not seen Christopher Lee Dracula movies, check them
I
out,
mean, I
man.
didn't see them until I was in my early 20s.
Mm, mm,
So, yeah, I
yep,
missed out as a kid.
yep, yep. James saying Bill Paxton stole the show just like he did in Aliens. He always
He
steals the show,
always
Nice.
doesn't
does.
he? He
Yeah.
really does,
He
man.
does.
Masterpiece.
No matter what it is, even in stuff like True Lies with Arnold and Jamie Lee, and he was stealing the show. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously. Um, Gene is happy that Near Dark. That's great. Okay. Jamie also saying Near Dark is so good, and it's not what you'd expect. That's a good point. Very good point. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so let's move to our fourth pick. Okay, Kill. What do we have for your number 4?
This was not planned, but I'll say some of the same rhetoric I said before. I
Hmm.
love comic books. And this one is based off a very adult and famous graphic novel. Um, and the premise is very simplistic. In a time with fancy vampires that can shimmer and are very eloquent, this one just said, "Look, let's just go metal with it. Let's go savage with it, and let's go to a part of the world where we could chill out for 30 days of night." So look,
Du-du-dum.
I'll be here all weekend, folks. Uh, I love the premise of this because
Mhm.
there are parts of the world where there is like a polar day and polar night, where it's like, nighttime for 4 months and sometimes it's daytime for about four
Right,
months.
right, right.
That is a real thing.
Mhm.
And what's so interesting is these vampires, they get wind of this after, centuries of existing. They're like, hey, let's just go up there and have a little vacation.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
Josh Hartnett is our lead in this, and he is awesome. He
Yes.
definitely earns it. And yeah, like I mean, this was like one of the first, I guess, grown up Josh Hartnett roles that I saw. Like, okay, he's a grown man in this, and he's the sheriff of the town. And
Mhm.
essentially, this is a bottleneck film in a way of just being in this town and trying to get around and survive until the
Mhm.
sun comes and these vampires leave. And what I really loved about this, you talk about some gore.
Yeah.
These vampires are like walking land sharks. Land shark.
Yeah.
Um, you
I
know,
love the look of them.
yes, they are so
Right.
savage.
Hmm.
They're more animalistic than anything. They barely
Hmm.
speak. They kind of talk in grunts, and it is just a scary as hell movie because they're an occupied, they're like an occupied country,
Mhm.
and they're getting aced out in horrific ways. So
Yep.
when this came out, it was like a breath of fresh air for me with all the other romanticized vampires that were going on in cinema.
Hmm.
At the time,
So
yeah.
yeah, so 30 Days of Night, I salute you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And real quick too in the chat, we got our good friend Steven from Craving Something Scary coming in saying, "Hey, Night, Killian Coriander."
Hello.
Also, hello to the chat. What's going on, man? Hope you're doing good. We're talking vampire movies, and he said 30 Days of Night is a great movie. Heck yeah,
Hmm.
definitely, no doubt at all. Gina saying, "Thanks, Killian. 30 Days of Night is great. Also, probably my favorite vampire, along with Salem's Lot." Salem's Lot is
Nice.
fantastic as well, man. When we did
Hmm.
our watch party for Salem's Lot, that was so awesome, man. It really
Yeah.
was. Oh my gosh. All right. So, Coriander, what do we have for your number 4 favorite vampire movie?
Okay. Well, I mean, Killian said it all, put it back up.
Okay. All right.
Great
Tell,
movie.
tell me
Yeah.
tell me your tell me your connection to this.
Well, for me, the first time I saw this, I was like, I loved it. Like Killian said, it was nighttime for months. These people were
Mhm.
trying to survive. The look of
Mhm.
the vampire was something new. Like you said, savage and animal. And yeah. and Josh Hartnett, I'm a fan of his, so
Mhm.
I mean, I loved it. It's a great vampire movie.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. No doubt. Okay, so for my number 4 pick, this was a movie that it um it kind of changed the way I looked at vampire films, and it was definitely how do I want to say, a movie that I watched the hell out of when it first came out, and I still watch it all the time too. And it started a franchise, so that's why I have to show it some love. Now, I'm talking about Blade, our man Wesley Snipes. Look, man, when this movie came out, and for you guys, if you've watched the channel for a while, then you already know this. But for me, what was so cool about Blade, number one, it being a comic book movie, like Kill was talking about, because he had picked Blade 2. And I love Blade 2. And arguably, maybe I watch it more now than back in the day versus the original. But the original, man, just the way they set up the story, with Blade being the Daywalker and Whistler and the gadgets, and you had that Batman vibe going on. But almost more importantly for me, on a personal level, was Wesley Snipes using his martial arts in the movie, and he was doing some nice stuff, man. Seriously, he was mixing so many styles of martial arts. And when Blade had come out, it was a really cool time too, because they did a lot of honoring of legendary martial artists and legendary martial artists in film and TV and stuff like that. And I'll never forget, they had this martial arts masters show, and it was right when Blade was coming out, and Wesley Snipes was kind of the host of ceremonies, and they were just doing all of this promotion for Blade. And I mean, it was just cool stuff, man. Watching the behind the scenes and watching what he was doing in his action moments, action scenes and stuff like that. It just really had a big impact on me at the time. Being a young martial artist myself, and the kills and just all the lore that they were adding, as far as for a vampire film, it was just so cool to see, man. So I had to have this on my list. So my number 4 is Blade. And there's still some love I give for Blade Trinity. Maybe one day we'll get into that a little bit. But anyways, my number 4 is, don't you shake your head, boy.
Hey,
Telling
you
you.
forgot to talk about how cool his car is.
The car is absolutely fantastic, man.
Yes,
The
Coriander,
sword,
you would
the
love the car. I don't know
sword,
if you've seen these movies, but
What is it?
Blade,
Blade.
he has a
Oh, I
badass
have.
muscle car.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she has. Okay. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Okay, so real quick, let me let me jump in the chat before we get to your number 3 kill. Let's see. These guys. James saying Blade 2 for his number 4. All right. Jamie saying 30 Days a Night is fantastic. And Unstable in the chat saying, I love 30 Days a Night, and Blade is awesome. I love that movie too. It really, really is. Wayne's a fan of Blade. The opening scene. Yeah, the opening scene was just, oh man, it was just everything, man. Just the way that it's set up. You got all these vampires in a friggin' rave, and all of a sudden you've got the blood pouring down from the sprinklers, and you're just like, oh man. And Wesley comes into the room. We've talked about this scene before, and just people stop.
But he comes in the room and then starts smiling. I'm
Yes.
sorry. If you're the
Yes.
lone protagonist, you come into a room with
Yes.
your glasses and you're like,
And you just start smiling,
it's like,
man.
oh no,
And
no.
and he had so many scenes just physically that were just so funny. It's not like making a joke, but he was cool funny. You know what I mean? Like that scene
Yes.
where a couple of the vampires come in and like, let's fuck him up. And then Wesley just does this thing like, bitch. You know what I mean? It's just, he doesn't say bitch, but that's the look. It was just badass, man. Seriously.
Oh yeah.
Jason's in the chat saying, good afternoon, Night Killing and Coriander. Sorry I'm late.
Hello.
Didn't want to miss the stream. Much love. What's going on, Jason? We're about to hit the number 3. Bacon's in the chat. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. And Mwamba's in the chat saying Stephen Dorff was amazing as Deacon Frost. Yeah, he was a great villain. You gotta have, listen, we got a project coming up for you guys. You gotta have a great villain. What do you need to have in a movie, Kill? What do we say? What's our little
You always need a Trevelyan.
You need a Trevelyan. You need, and for you guys that if you know, you need a Trevelyan. Okay. Let me stop. Kill. What do you got for your number 3 in your top 5 vampire movies?
Okay, the hits keep rolling. I don't think this is based on a comic book, so I can finally change it up a little bit. I think Coriander will love this one too. No pageantry needed. From Dusk Till Dawn.
There it is.
Look, I mean, you talk about cool. The vampires in this, I wouldn't say they are as cool as the, the protagonists we're following because they're both very cool. But the
Yes.
vampires in here were something very new, very totally different than what we had been seeing. These vampires were more serpent-like.
Yes.
You know, kind of like glorified, cobras in a way.
Yes. Good point.
Yeah. Also, just a whole Mexican vibe to it, because of where the movie takes place. It takes place in a border town, and it's pretty much a bottleneck film because it's the coolest bar in the world.
Yeah.
You'll only get to go there once.
That's right.
Wasn't
that crazy though, man? Like, well, I don't want to.
Aren't you guys gonna
too much?
What? You can't say the titty twister?
Oh,
right?
I mean,
Who's,
yeah.
I was about to say something else. I was about to
Oh.
say something else. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But
Go
yes,
ahead, Kel, finish up.
That's the name of it. But no,
Yeah.
this movie, it's a great genre film. Robert Rodriguez, he
Yes.
just does his thing. Quentin Tarantino, George Clooney, young Selma Hayek, Cheech, you name it. It's so many people in this.
Don't forget about Harvey Keitel.
Freaking
Harvey Keitel.
Dude, it's too many. Fred Williamson. It's too many people to name.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen him in The Bad
Savini.
Lieutenant? Harvey Keitel.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was quite the movie.
And just lastly, it's a great action film. It's
right.
Comedic. It's a heist film. I mean, you name it, it's in here. And people don't talk about it as much. Like this was the movie, back in the day. So for some reason, if any of you guys have not seen From Dusk Till Dawn, definitely check it out. It's a really awesome movie, and they made a very good television series. It's on streaming,
right?
That fleshes it out even more. It's so.
Can you listen? Can you believe? Because I remember we used to talk about it. Man, I couldn't believe that the show was as good as it was, and I mean it was fantastic. I couldn't believe it, man, because it fleshed it out in a way that was like, wow, man, they could have. I mean, and
I didn't see that either.
Oh,
just saying.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm only going to spoil it. In general, when we talk about movies, we try to stay away from big spoilers. But what I was going to say is that for the movies they did do some direct to video sequels and all that type of stuff, and it was kind of like what I mean. But the show was fantastic, and I couldn't believe how good it was. But anyways, good pick, man. Good pick. And Jason's got his list that he's putting up. All right.
Very nice.
And we got Jason Dyers in the chat saying Fright Night, baby. All right. Yeah, Fright Night, obviously a classic. Very, very cool. Fright Night 2, underrated as well, just to throw that out there. Okay. All right. So Coriander, now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here a little bit. What do you have for your number 3?
So for my number 3, I have The Lost Boys.
Nice.
Yeah, you gotta love the opening scene when the guy's, playing the trumpet. And no, but yeah, it's a great vampire movie. Kiefer Sutherland is great in this, and everybody. I can't say one bad thing about this cast. So yeah, Jason Patrick. I mean, I'm a big fan of his. So yeah, great movie.
All right. How old were you when you first seen this movie? Did you see it when you were younger?
No, I didn't
in the
see.
80s,
No,
or?
I didn't see. No, I didn't see this until my early 20s.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think of like the 80s, vibe to it, the 80s charm?
I'm a big fan of anything 80s. So I loved it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very, very cool. Okay, guys. So this was where it was getting a little difficult for me when I was doing my list, because these three movies that I have left, I I can almost pretty much interchange them. Maybe not my number one, but this is really, really difficult for me. And I went back and forth, and I kind of had to stick the landing. So I'm gonna go with From Dusk Till Dawn. Okay. So look, man.
Hey.
Look, this I'll never get when I first saw this movie, man, because you really didn't know what to expect from it. And they were very good with the promotion and the marketing to not give away everything. You know what I mean? And the fact that you're following George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino as they're on their little heistcapade. It starts off and it's got this, this almost actiony, almost type of Western vibe going on. And then next thing you know, it just flips on the dime. And now all of a sudden they have to try to survive against a friggin' town worth of vampires. I mean, it's just absolutely bonkers. It's over the top. It's got coolness. It's got, like you said earlier, Kill, action. It's just, and again, back to Harvey Keitel, just some really good characters, because you have these two criminals that take this family as hostage. And so I guess what I'm saying is that you're constantly trying to figure out, who am I rooting for? And especially once the vampires come into the story, it's like, wait a minute, now everything has shifted. So, again, to piggyback what you were saying earlier, Kill, Robert Rodriguez did a hell of a job with this movie and crafting it, when so many great actors, so many, and it's a favorite of mine. It really, really is. Anyone who hasn't seen From Dusk Till Dawn, you have got to watch it, especially if you're a vampire film fan. You just got to watch it. And like you were saying, Kill, the show, I can't say enough about the show, because I really did not expect the show to be as good as it was. And it
Mhm.
is fantastic, man. It really is. So my number three is From Dusk Till Dawn. Okay. All right. Real quick, too, in the chat. Let's see. Jamie saying, I love The Lost Boys so much. One of the most memorable theater experiences of my life. All right. Philip's in the
Nice.
chat. Denisha's in the chat. All right. Good to see you. Good to see you. Let us know some of your
Hey.
favorites. Gina saying Quentin was a nutcase. I saw this in the cinema and
Yeah.
loved it, apart from the foot fetish.
Right.
And Denisha saying, I have seen Dusk Till Dawn. It's been a while. All right. Very, very cool. Okay. Let's head to our number two. We're almost there, Kill. So what do you have for your number two and your top five vampire movies of all time?
Okay, so now I have to, I have to change my palette. I have to get a little bit more sophisticated. I got to get a little French now. I got to get a little foreign film here on it. But this film is one that I absolutely fell in love with many years ago. I've talked about it before on the show, and it's a little film called Let the Right One In.
All
And
right.
and look, this movie. What I love about this movie is it's not your traditional vampire story, because the
Yeah.
vampire in question is she looks like a kid. But
Hmm.
obviously, we know vampires live very long lives, and she is way older than what she looks like. And the person with her is her dad, or at least it looks like it's her dad. And she befriends another lonely little boy in this new neighborhood that they moved into. In an urban sprawl, they move into, like, an apartment complex.
Hmm.
Um, but the movie is creepy because this young actress, her performance is amazing, and the way that she conveys just her mannerisms, the way
Hmm.
she talks to him like an adult, but in a child's body. And it's
Right.
just so much great imagery in this movie. They did make an American version with
Hmm.
Chloe Grace Moretz, Let Me In. It was okay. It wasn't bad, but it loses some things in translation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys have never seen this movie, I would highly recommend seeing the foreign version first.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see the American version, but it's a great, eerie, awesome vampire film. I don't want to even talk too much about it because
Right.
there are huge spoilers in it of
Yeah.
things, and I don't want to give anything away, but definitely check it out. It's an awesome take on your traditional vampire story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a good one. No doubt about that at all. Okay, Coriander, what do we have for your number two?
All right. So this one, yeah, I fell in love with it from, the first time I saw it in the theaters. Uh, yeah, it's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a great love story. Like I always say, this movie had me crying at the end, and yeah, it's one of my. You had Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder. I mean, and other people. Gary
Come on now.
Oldman.
Gary Oldman, yeah.
Yes, I loved his portrayal of Dracula, and yeah, I mean, it's a great flick.
Yeah, man. Anthony Hopkins. The can't forget about
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Hopkins, man. It's like I was
Yeah.
waiting, like, come on,
Winona.
girl.
Well, yeah,
Now,
I can't think of them. I can't remember them all, but yeah.
now I gotta admit, man, I was really surprised that you had this at your number
I
two,
was
because
flip-flopping with one and
okay,
two,
all right.
but
Because I know
yeah,
that there was a time when you said that this was like your favorite vampire movie and also one of your favorite movies ever because of the complexity of the story and it
it
also being
is.
the romance and
It
so forth. So
is.
you shocked
But
me on
this
this
one
one.
is too. I know. My number one is two. These two are like if they could be if we could pick two number ones, it would be this one of my number one pick. So
All
yeah.
right. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So for my number two, and this it was somewhat difficult, but my number one is just my number one, and that's just kind of how it is. By the way, check yourselves in the chat saying Christopher Lee, I think, is the best Dracula. Yeah, we were talking about Christopher Lee earlier. Definitely check out the beginning of the stream. By the way, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. That would help us out. Um, but this movie, when it came out, it was really kind of an event type of thing because kind of what I was saying a little bit earlier, there were spaces where there weren't any big vampire movies, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like, man, I wonder when, we're going to get a really really good one, and growing up as a kid and watching the old Christopher Lee movies, and Kill, you remember, on Saturday afternoons or whatever, we were watching everything, whether it was an action movie, kung fu movie, Christopher Lee vampire movies, old school Universal monsters. We were watching everything. And so it had been a while since we had something on that level, but this movie came along and really, really struck a chord with me. My number two is Bram Stoker's Dracula as well. um, this movie is fantastic. When you talk about Francis Ford Coppola, first of all, the movie it's very elegant, and it was an opportunity to kind of take what people had seen before and kind of give it a very interesting type of spin or an interesting type of polish, so to speak. Gary Oldman, he can do no wrong. I mean, Gary Oldman can play any type of character that you need him to play. Doesn't matter what it is, what genre. And he was fantastic as Dracula. Winona Ryder was great too. But Anthony Hopkins, baby. Van Helsing.
Van
I mean,
Helsing.
Anthony Hopkins was dropping knowledge in this movie, right? And I love, you guys know Anthony Hopkins is my favorite actor. I mean, this was at a time, it was such a cool time for me as a film fan as well. You know what I mean? Because, there was horror movies and we had just gotten out of the 80s and action and so forth. This movie, it is just so amazing. It's got so much great atmosphere. And like Coriander was saying, the love story in it, I did not expect that to be something that not only would work, but something that I actually gravitated to myself. And fun fact, I got the soundtrack to this, and I used to play the hell out of the soundtrack. The music is amazing too. Shout out to Annie Lennox. Um, anyways, I had to have this on my list. There was a moment where I was thinking I was gonna have this as number one, but I had to go with the one that I chose for my number one. But number two, I've got Bram Stoker's Dracula, a fantastic adaptation to me, anyways, of the incredible story. So, anyways, all right. Jamie knows what's up. Gary Oldman never disappoints.
This is true.
Yes, yes, and more yes. Telling you. Um, Gina saying, only thing that annoyed me about Dracula is Keanu Reeves' attempt at a British accent. Otherwise, it's a masterpiece. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Let's see. Bobby Lee saying, Let the Right One In is amazing, gritty, and seemingly realistic, even though it's about a vampire. Yes, I agree.
Very, very true.
I agree. Okay, Kill, here we are. We're going to our number one pick.
Okay.
Let's proceed with caution. There's no lying.
I have a few honorable mentions, if you allow.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. First off, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Underworld is awesome. And if you like vampire lore, they do a lot of vampire lore in addition to shooting bullets of silver and sunlight.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. Damn it.
Fright Night is awesome. Yes. And the last one I'll mention, if you liked Bram Stoker's Dracula, a lot of people don't talk about this movie because it kind of came and went, but I actually liked it a lot. Dracula Untold. Untold with Luke Evans is in a way, a spiritual successor to Bram Stoker's Dracula because it's the traditional tale of a prince in Carpathia, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not a bad movie. I don't know why no one talks about it. There's no love for it, but I just had to mention that. My number one is Bram Stoker's Dracula. So unlike you guys, I did the right thing. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, damn.
You let the right one in.
For me, I did. But I'm not going to talk too long about it because you guys both said, great things, and I agree with both of you. But as far as a traditional Dracula tale, meaning it's a period piece, the look, the cinematography, the music, the actors, it's way too many great performances in here, except for Keanu's accent. And like Coriander said, it's a love story. It's a story of redemption. It's a story of religion or religious rebellion. It's just so much in here. It's an action movie. You got Van Helsing is in here just for shits and giggles. It's like they threw everything in there that they could. And it just looks amazing. Yeah. The costume design.
And how many you see Dracula in like a wolf form? He turns into a bunch of rats. You see him in a bat form. I mean, it's incredible.
In the pimp form,
pimp style with the top hat.
He has his harem of vampire women. I mean, it's old version of him, young version. But this was a great movie, a great rendition. And like I said earlier in the stream on Netflix, the Dracula miniseries pretty much follows this. Check it out. It's awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. These guys in the chat is so funny. We're going with Fright Night. Jamie's going with she's going with Bram Stoker's at number one as well. James saying Gary Oldman was on fire in the 90s. He was. All of them.
Right.
All right. Gary Oldman, man. Like that was just such a home run having him playing Dracula. You know what I mean? And it's funny too because I don't think he gets as much love as he deserves, man. I mean, when you think of some great Dracula performances, obviously you think of Christopher Lee. You can't forget about Bela Lugosi. Even your boy Frank Langella, the pimping out in the 70s Dracula with the fucking perm hair, man. Like, he was kicking it too. But Gary Oldman was fantastic, man. All right. So, Coriander, what are we going with for your number one?
All right. So, this is another. You guys both said everything there is to say about this movie. From Dusk Till Dawn.
All
I
right. All
love
right.
the chemistry between George Clooney and Quentin. And yeah, you feel bad for the family because of what these guys are doing to them. And
Right.
then they get to Mexico and it's a whole nother ball game. And
Mm.
yeah, man, it's crazy shit. And it's one of my favorite movies. Yeah. So yeah.
All right. All right. Yeah, it's just bonkers, man. The stuff that they
Mm,
went through. It really, really was. And it kept amping everything up. That's the thing that gets me, man. They were able to keep
yeah.
finding a way to make things top the next thing. Um,
Right.
Denisha saying Fright Night. Jason has his list here. Bram Stoker's Dracula #1 honorable mentions. Ooh, a whole bunch. And he also giving Frank Langella some love from Dracula 79. Pimp Dracula. That was Pimp Dracula. Yes. Bobby Lee saying Hopkins rocked in Dracula. He did, man. He really, really did. And Mwamba saying Interview with a Vampire for me. Wayne's got
Yeah.
his list.
That was an
Go ahead,
honorable
Coriander.
mention. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now
Was
tell us
Interview with the
why, because
Vampire.
tell us why, because I was really
Oh,
shocked you
I
didn't have it
was
on your list.
I know. Why it wasn't on my list
Well, just why it's an
or
honorable
why I
mention.
like it.
Yeah, why you
Oh,
like it.
okay. Because, well, first of all, I was a big, and I still am a big Brad Pitt fan. So to see him and to see Tom Cruise play a vampire,
Mhm.
it intrigued me. And once I saw it, yeah, I loved how it started out in modern day and then it took you through, a time period of,
Mhm.
to seeing how vampires would have survived back then. And yeah,
Right.
it was great. A great
Yeah,
movie.
You would love the
absolutely,
TV
man.
show.
I'm gonna
Well,
have to check it out.
we'll start checking that out after we finish the stream,
Yeah,
man. Now that you've said that, because
yeah.
I didn't know it was that good. I heard a couple people say it was, all right, but hearing it from you solidifies it. Um, I gotta say, man, before I
Mhm.
get to my number one honorable mentions, let me also mention Interview with a Vampire, and it was really tough to not have this on my list, because I think it is a great vampire movie, but that just shows how many great ones there are, at least for me personally. It's a great adaptation of the Anne Rice book. Anne Rice, shout out, RIP, because it was an interesting world that she created, and this movie was able to really make it feel like something real, man. Like, it was so well done. Brad Pitt, Kirsten Dunst, Antonio Banderas, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, man, when I watch this movie, I'm like, Tom Cruise has literally solidified himself that he can do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he was so believable as a vampire. It's like, man, he's on my list now as one of my favorite actors of all time when I saw this movie. Also, shout out to Fright Night. Like I said earlier, I love Fright Night so much. I think Fright Night 2 is underrated. I like Fright Night 2 as well. Nosferatu, and look, and I said it earlier, but you know where it started for me, Kill, when we were little kids. Listen to them, children of the night. What music they make. Bela
Wow.
Lugosi, like,
You remind
seriously,
me of
man.
Gary Oldman though, dude. That was pretty good.
Hey, man, if I can remind you of Gary Oldman or Bela
Yeah,
Lugosi,
I
I'm
liked
doing all
it.
right.
I
Thank you,
liked
thank
it.
you. So there's so many great movies. Movie chat and more in the chats, and Fright Night without a doubt. All right, welcome to the chat too. Mayan's in the chat too. And again, if you guys haven't hit the like button, please do, because I'm about to reveal my number one. Look, there is no lying here. There was literally, for me anyways, only one choice. Growing up in the 80s, man, listen, when you're talking about vampire movies, there's only one choice. And you guys know what it is. Look, my number one is The Lost Boys. I mean, come on, man. This movie is awesome. It is
Yeah.
absolutely badass. Listen, guys, first of all, even to this day, And I just watched this movie like I don't know a couple weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever. This movie still kicks so much ass with the story, with the aesthetic, with the atmosphere, with the music. Plus, has an amazing. The soundtrack is literally on my player right now. I still listen to the soundtrack, and this movie came out in 1987. Everybody, like you guys were saying earlier, Coriander, everybody in here is fantastic. Obviously, Kiefer, look, Kiefer Sutherland, just like his father. Like, if there's any time we can talk about Kiefer or Donald, we're gonna talk about them because they're just so fantastic in their roles. But Kiefer Sutherland was so great in this, and you got to remember too, this was at a time when he was just in so many good movies. There's a charm that was around at this time in 1987, and this is one of those movies that has lived on, like some others as well. But I think that The Lost Boys is in this really special upper level, upper tier of film. Um, I could go on and on, man, but I absolutely love this movie so much. My only regret with this movie is that I've heard them talking about trying to do obviously reboot it or remake it and stuff like that, and they did have some direct to video sequels that were they were all right,
Mm.
but I think that there's a magic to this movie, like certain other films too. There's a charm to it that you just can't recapture. You just can't, in my opinion. But anyways, I had to go with The Lost Boys at number one. I knew when we were doing this list, I knew that was going to be my number one, and I didn't shake from it. I love Bram Stoker's Dracula, and there was a moment where I was like, "Oh, maybe I can put it up there." Like, nah, man, I got to go with The Lost Boys. It's just too good, absolutely too
Mhm.
good. So there you go, guys. Real quick too, in the chat. Oh, hey, we got a $2 super chat. Thank you so much, man. Much appreciated. Movie chat more coming in saying for
Yeah.
the channel. Thank you so much. We really appreciate
Mhm.
that. Definitely
Yeah.
helps out the channel, helps us to do streams, and helps us with so much behind the scenes. Thank you so much. For that, we have to play a little super chat clip. We appreciate all the support that you guys give. Here's one that we love.
The man in the black sombrero. This is Zero?
I am certain of it.
And the hideous dog you refer to must be my wife, yes?
There it is. And shout out because we play clips from that, and that's Zorro the Gay Blade that has George Hamilton in it. I used to love George Hamilton playing a vampire and love it first bite. That's a great film. Funny as hell. Funny as hell. I used to love that, especially when I was a kid. But thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate it. It helps us out so very much. So very much. Jason saying The Lost Boys, no words. Wow. Yes, yes. And Val giving thanks for helping to support the channel. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Val, for giving thanks because it really, as well as anyone, it helps us out so much. I know David's like, they're just noodles, Michael. uh, Wayne in agreement with the Lost Boys. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Um, I know. Said wait for the Apollo Creed clip. I know, man. I gotta work on that. I gotta work on that. Remind me of it. Remind me of it. Um, but yeah, guys, these are our top five, man. And it it was kind of an interesting exercise because there's so many good movies. Any final thoughts, Kill, as we get ready to head on out of here?
Um, I love Lost Boys. That's one of the honorable mentions I forgot. And I Am Legend is a vampire movie.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Good point. And that's an honorable mention as well because I love that movie.
Yep.
Bobby Lee saying "Love at First Bite." I forgot about that one. See, guys, that's what happens when you watch us. We help you to remember great films because "Love at First Bite" is hilarious. Again, shout out to George Hamilton, severely underrated. Coriander, as we get ready to head on out here, and we're going to be doing our watch party actually in a little bit for members and channel members. So if you're not a channel member, definitely hit the join button. Join us, and we'll be doing that in another 15 minutes. But Coriander, as we get ready to head on out here, any final thoughts on vampire films?
Uh, they're great. And yeah, You should watch them.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. James saying, leave Lost Boys alone. You can't remake it. You can't. You can't. No doubt about it. Check yourself. Saying, what about Blackula? Yeah, and Blackula too. Definitely on the honorable mentions. Again, growing up, I'm telling you guys, we watched a lot of vampire movies growing up because they just used to play them on TV, man. Katie's in the chat too. What's going on, Katie? As we're about to head on out, check out the replay. This was a fun one, man. This was a fun one. Another honorable mention, Wayne talking about Martin from the late great George Romero. Absolutely, you know we love George on this channel, no doubt about it. So, anyways, guys, this was fun. Leave us your list in the comment section down below. Let us know what your favorites are and why. And you can give us more than 5 and let us know what they are. Don't forget to hit the like button. It helps to support us and we'd appreciate it. And yeah, we will catch you guys next time. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.
Peace.
Upchich.